Inside the phone in your pocket, there's a chip, and there's a better than 90% chance it was made by a single company on a single island in one of the most dangerous places on Earth. That company is TSMC. Most people have never heard of it. It doesn't sell a phone, it doesn't sell a laptop, it doesn't sell anything you can buy in a store, and yet without it, the modern world simply stops. Every iPhone, every Nvidia chip, training every AI model, every advanced weapon system, they all run on silicon etched in the factories of one firm, the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. If those factories went dark tomorrow, the global economy could lose more than $1 trillion in the first year alone. There is no backup. There is no second source. So how did a company most people can't even name end up holding the entire digital world in its hands? How did one small island become the most important place in the global economy? The answer starts with a 54-year-old engineer, a man who had just been told his career was over. It's 1985. Morris Chang is 54 years old, and by the standards of Silicon Valley, he is finished. For 25 years, Chang had been a star at Texas Instruments. He ran their semiconductor division. He was on track to become chief executive. And then, one day, he was passed over, handed a role with a grand title and no real power. So he left. Chang was born in mainland China in 1931. He grew up fleeing war, moved to the United States, and earned a doctorate from Stanford. He had spent his entire adult life inside American chip companies, and he understood the industry better than almost anyone alive. Then the government of Taiwan called. They wanted to build a semiconductor industry from nothing, and they wanted him to run it. The offer came with a blank sheet of paper and a single question. What kind of company would you build? If you could build anything at all. Most men at 54 are thinking about retirement. Chang was about to invent an entirely new way to make the most complex objects humans have ever produced. To understand what Chang did next, you have to understand how chips were made in 1986. Back then, every chip company did everything itself. If you designed a processor, you also had to build a factory to manufacture it. A fabrication plant, or fab, costing hundreds of millions of dollars. Intel designed and built its own chips. Motorola designed and built its own chips. The factory and the design lived under one roof. That was simply how the world worked. This created a brutal barrier. A brilliant young engineer with a revolutionary chip design had no chance, because raising $1 billion to build a fab was impossible. Chang saw the gap. What if a company did nothing but manufacture? No designs of its own. No competing products. Just a pure factory, building whatever its customers dreamed up, and never ever stealing their ideas. He called it the Pure Play Foundry. And in 1987, with backing from the Taiwanese government and the Dutch electronics firm Philips, Morris Chang founded the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company to prove that it could work. On paper, it looked like a terrible idea. In 1987, there was almost no one to sell to. The whole industry was built around companies that made their own chips. A factory with no designs of its own had no obvious customers. Investors were skeptical. The island had no deep pool of semiconductor talent, no famous research universities in the field, no track record at all. Taiwan was known for cheap plastic toys, not precision engineering, and the technology gap was enormous. The leading American and Japanese fabs were years ahead. The new company's first factories ran processes that were already a generation behind. Why would a serious chip designer trust their crown jewel product to an unknown factory on the other side of the world, a factory running outdated technology? For the first few years, the doubters looked right. The company scraped by on low-end orders, the chips nobody else wanted to bother with. Margins were thin, the big names stayed away. But Chang was playing a far longer game than anyone realized. He wasn't trying to win in 1987. He was building the foundation for a revolution that hadn't even happened yet. The revolution Chang was waiting for had a name: fabless. Here was the idea hiding inside his foundry model. If a reliable factory existed that would build anyone's chip, then a designer no longer needed a factory at all. They could rent it. A handful of brilliant engineers in a small office could design a world-class chip and simply send the blueprint to Taiwan. Slowly, this new kind of company began to appear. Firms with no factories of their own, fabless chip designers. Nvidia, founded in 1993, was built entirely around design, betting its survival on a manufacturing partner thousands of miles away. And every one of these companies needed exactly what Chang had built: a factory that would never compete with them. a factory that treated their secrets as sacred. The foundry's promise was simple: we will never design a chip of our own, so you never have to fear us. If you're enjoying this story, take a second to subscribe. We dig into builds like this one all the time. Trust became the real product. And in this industry, trust would turn out to be worth more than any single piece of technology. Then the floodgates opened. Through the 1990s and into the 2000s, the fabless model exploded. Nvidia and Qualcomm, Broadcom, and later, Apple, some of the most valuable companies in history, were built on a single assumption: that those factories in Taiwan would always be there, always improving, always ready to turn their designs into silicon. Apple is the clearest example. The chip inside your iPhone, the most advanced consumer processor on Earth, is designed in California and manufactured in Taiwan. Apple does not own a single chip factory. It doesn't need one. It has its foundry partner. This was the payoff of Chang's bet. By refusing to compete with his customers, he made himself indispensable to all of them. The more the digital world grew, the more chips it needed, and nearly all of those chips flowed through one island. By the 2010s, a staggering share of the world's most advanced semiconductors came from a single company, not a country, not an alliance. One company, executing one idea, better than anyone on Earth. The factory nobody had wanted was now the factory the entire world depended on. But staying on top meant running a race that never ends. Chips improve by shrinking. The smaller the transistors, the more you can pack onto a single sliver of silicon, and the faster and more efficient the chip becomes. The industry measures this in nanometers. 90 nanometers, then 65, then 45, each generation smaller than the last. And every shrink costs more. A modern chip factory is the most expensive commercial building. Humans construct north of $20 billion for a single advanced fab. The machines inside cost hundreds of millions each. The clean rooms must be thousands of times cleaner than a hospital operating room. A single speck of dust can ruin a chip. To stay ahead, the foundry had to spend tens of billions of dollars every year, betting on technology that wouldn't pay off for half a decade. Get the bet wrong and you waste a fortune. Fall behind by a single generation and your customers walk. Most companies could never survive this treadmill. The capital is too punishing, the margin for error too thin. One by one, the rivals stumbled, and one giant was about to fall. For decades, one name defined the cutting edge of chip manufacturing: Intel. Intel was the gold standard. The American giant had led semiconductor process technology since the 1970s. Its factories were always a step ahead. If you wanted the most advanced chips on Earth, Intel built them, full stop. Then, sometime around 2018, something happened that almost no one outside the industry noticed. The giant got stuck. Its next-generation process, the 10-nanometer node, ran years late, plagued by delays and defects. And its quiet rival did not. Methodically, the Taiwanese foundry kept hitting its targets: 7 nanometers, 5 nanometers, 3 nanometers, one generation after another, right on schedule. Then the unthinkable happened. The contract factory from a small island, the company that had started a full generation behind everyone, passed the king of American chip making. By the early 2020s, the most advanced chips on the planet were no longer made by Intel. They were made in Taiwan. It was one of the greatest reversals in the history of technology, and it had taken Morris Chang almost exactly 30 years. Staying ahead required mastering the hardest machine ever built. To etch features just a few atoms wide, the foundry needed a technology called extreme ultraviolet lithography, known as EUV. Each machine costs over $150 million, weighs as much as 2 adult elephants, and is built by only one company on Earth, the Dutch firm ASML. The Taiwanese foundry bought them by the dozen. While rivals hesitated over the staggering cost and complexity, it went all in, installing this technology at scale faster than anyone else dared. That gamble let it leap ahead to 5 and 3 nanometers, while competitors were still struggling to catch up. The payoff came every autumn. Each new iPhone, each new generation of Nvidia's AI accelerators, depended on those factories delivering the next node exactly on time. Billions of dollars in product launches rested on a single island executing flawlessly, and it did. Year after year, the most demanding customers in technology bet their flagship products on Taiwan, and Taiwan delivered. The foundry that once took only scraps now had the world's giants waiting in line, competing for its capacity. But that very success had created a terrifying problem. Consider what the entire world had come to depend on. By 2024, this one foundry manufactured around 90% of the world's most advanced chips, the leading-edge processors that power artificial intelligence, smartphones, and modern weapons. Not a majority, almost all of them, the company's market value crossed $1 trillion, making it one of the most valuable firms on the planet, and by far the most important one you may have never thought about. It spent more than $30 billion a year building new factories. Its customers included nearly every major technology company in existence, and almost all of this advanced production sat in one place, Taiwan. A single island smaller than the state of Maryland, about 90 miles off the coast of mainland China. Think about what that means. The artificial intelligence boom, the trillion-dollar tech giants, the very future of computing, all of it balanced on the output of factories clustered on one island, in one of the most contested regions on Earth. It was an extraordinary achievement. It was also one of the most dangerous concentrations of power in the modern world. This is where the story stops being about business and starts being about survival. For decades, mainland China has claimed Taiwan as its own territory, vowing to one day bring the island under its control, by force if necessary. And sitting in the middle of that conflict is the most important company on Earth. Strategists have a name for the foundry's role in this standoff: the Silicon Shield. The theory goes like this: Taiwan is so essential to the global economy that no one can afford to let it be destroyed. The United States needs those chips. China needs those chips. The entire world needs those chips. The island, in effect, is protected by being too important to lose. But the very same logic cuts the other way. Whoever controls these factories controls the future of computing itself. That makes Taiwan the single most strategically valuable patch of ground on the planet, and the most dangerous flashpoint between two superpowers. A company built simply to make chips had accidentally become the fulcrum of 21st century geopolitics. Morris Chang had set out to build a foundry. He had built a shield and a target. So what happens if it all goes wrong? Economists have tried to model it, and the numbers are staggering. A major disruption to Taiwan's chip production could cost the global economy well over $1 trillion in a single year. Smartphones, cars, data centers, medical devices, weapons, anything with an advanced chip inside would grind to a halt. There is no quick substitute. Building just one leading-edge fab takes years and tens of billions of dollars. And the vulnerability runs deeper than missiles. These factories depend on a fragile web, imported raw materials, specialized chemicals, ultra-pure water, vast amounts of electricity, and those one-of-a-kind machines from ASML. Disrupt any single link in that chain, and the most advanced production on Earth slows or stops. This is what it means to have the world's most critical technology concentrated. In one place, decades of relentless execution had made the foundry indispensable, and in becoming indispensable, it had turned a single island into a global single point of failure. Governments finally woke up to the danger, and they began, frantically, to try to fix it. The race to spread the risk had finally begun. Washington moved first. Through a sweeping law passed in 2022, the United States offered tens of billions of dollars in subsidies to lure advanced chip manufacturing back onto American soil. And the crown jewel of that effort was the Taiwanese foundry itself. It agreed to build a massive complex in the Arizona desert, a commitment that grew to more than $60 billion, among the largest foreign investments in American history. For the first time, the most advanced chips would be made somewhere other than Taiwan. Japan got new factories too. So did Germany. But replicating Taiwan is brutally hard. The island holds something no subsidy can quickly buy: decades of accumulated know-how, thousands of veteran engineers, and a tight cluster of suppliers refined over a generation. Early on, the Arizona project hit delays, cost overruns, and a painful shortage of skilled workers. You cannot simply purchase 30 years of mastery. The factories can be copied. The expertise that runs them cannot, at least not quickly. For now, Taiwan's lead still holds. Step back and consider the scale of what one decision created. In 1987, a 54-year-old engineer who had been pushed aside took a blank sheet of paper and bet on a single counterintuitive idea: that the most valuable thing a chip company could do was refuse to make its own chips. Just build for everyone better than anyone, and never compete. Almost no one believed it would work. The technology was behind. The customers didn't exist yet. The island had no reputation in the field. By every conventional measure, it should have failed. Instead, Morris Chang's foundry became the quiet engine of the entire digital age. The smartphone in your hand, the AI rewriting how we work, the data centers humming around the clock. All of it runs on a model that a passed-over executive sketched out when most people his age were winding down. Chang stepped back from running the company in 2018, handing over a firm that had reshaped the world. He had been told, at 54, that his best years were behind him. As it turned out, they were just beginning. An island known for plastic toys. An executive nobody wanted. A factory a full generation behind, running the orders the big names threw away. From that, Morris Chang built the single most important manufacturing company on Earth. The firm that makes the chips that make the modern world possible. Today, the future of artificial intelligence, the balance of power between superpowers and the device in your pocket, all trace back to one radical idea. Build for everyone, compete with no one. He didn't just start a company, he turned an entire island into the most indispensable place in the global economy, and the most dangerous. A shield and a target, forged from the very same silicon. The most important company on Earth wasn't handed an industry, it built one, from nothing. If this changed how you see the chip inside your phone, subscribe. There are more impossible builds where this one came from.